Lost you for a minute.
Okay. I think we got to the part where they're in the jungle down there, and I'm not sure where. I'm not sure if he has a name. There are villages down there. Excuse me. She was asking for a dinosaur book because she wanted to show her dad which one he killed. They were sure it was a dinosaur. They just didn't know what to call it. So I said, well, we don't have any for sale like that. But she went on to describe the story. He was hunting with his bow and arrow, and he saw a pig in a clearing out in front of him, close enough that he could hit it with his arrow. And he drew back and shot at the pig, and as soon as the arrow got to the pig, this thing like a T-Rex or a Velociraptor, Allosaur, something like that, grabbed the thing in its mouth. The arrow hit the dinosaur, and it must have hit him in the ear or the eye. Something went right into his brain. He had a pretty small brain, so must have been the ear or possibly right in the thin of the neck there where it could have gotten a major nerve. Anyway, he's terrified. So he runs back to the village. I guess he told everybody, and then about 3 days later, other villagers from other tribes around came and asked him, said, man, why does the jungle smell so bad? And he goes, well, I shot this thing. So they went out there where he shot it, and here's this, she said it was a black color, something like a T-Rex laying there dead with its pig in its mouth. Probably a small peccary of some sort. And she went on to tell that it was her the dad or his brother, I believe, or an uncle. So he was in the jungle, and about 150 feet away was this big fat body, long neck, long tail, also black, and about the only thing would fit it would be a sauropod, some sort of a sauropod dinosaur. And she says, those ones you had to stay away from. And the evolutionists say, well, those have been in existence for 140 million years, ma'am, and it couldn't possibly be that. She said, oh, yeah, they do. They're there. And said, what they do is if you're within 100 feet of them, they can emit some kind of a sound, make some sort of a bark. She called it a bark, that if it's you're close enough to them, it more or less stuns you for a few moments. You can't move. It's like I was working on a construction crew one time in Iowa, and up about 175 feet, they wanted somebody to shinny out on the big I-beam and undo the hoist that lifted up the buckets of cement.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, sure, I'll do it.
I'm wait a minute, Joe.
I'm cool, I'm buff.
You did that? You actually crawled off like that?
Well, I got out about 12 or 18 inches, and then I could not move. I froze. I could not move. And finally, I said, I can't do this. I backed out, and they sent somebody else out there, some guy from Minnesota. I think those guys are all crazy. Anyway, I wasn't quite that crazy. But so I think I know what she was describing. If you're walking in front of a truck, and they hit the horn, and you're right there at it, it will do something to your nervous system, and you can't function for a few seconds. You may jump, or you may just freeze. When we're scared sometimes, we're frozen.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the way I felt. And I think that's what she was describing. They make this sound. It does something to your motor nerves, and you can't move for a minute. And she says, and they come and get you.
You mean they come and get you for their dinner?
Yeah, and so the evolutionists begin to say, well, they don't exist now, and they're all herbivores, and they wouldn't eat meat. Well, tell that to the Peruvians. I've worked with a bunch of Ica stones from Ica, Peru, and the Cabrera collection and other places. And, of course, they're highly controversial because a lot of the stones show known dinosaurs, sauropods, etc. One of the ones that I molded shows a sauropod grabbing a man by the arm and slinging him around. Okay? Well, that's exactly what that lady was describing. They're afraid of with these things. And you're saying, well, okay, then she's a liar. Well, okay, that's all you can say is, but it sounds to me like she's telling the truth about something that really happens over there. And then switch over to Peru. There's no way that back in the 40s, when all these stones were being brought to light, and even if they're all fakes, how did those people out there in those little huts know to depict that scene of a sauropod grabbing a man by the arm and slinging him around? Why would they depict that? It's exactly what that Amazonian lady was saying. And there's no connection between them. This is the 40s. You know, they didn't have telephones and stuff out in the jungle, and those people in Peru don't have telephones today. I've been in their houses down there. So, to me, there's a ring of truth in what she was saying, and there's a ring which then gave some validity to those Ica stones that depict dinosaurs grabbing you by the arm.
Now, can I ask you a question? So, when they grab you by the arm and swing, is that to tear you up to eat you?
Well, lions, dogs, and other animals, they will bite another animal or a human differently. So it's very possible that they grab you by the arm. Now they've got you because they can get that in their mouth more easily, and they thrash you to death or something. I don't know. You know, maybe she wasn't saying they ate them, but they got them. You know, like a horse will bite you. You ever been bitten by a horse?
I got 2 miniature horses. Yes, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah. One of my granddaughters lost a finger to a horse. She was feeding their horse, and her hand was curled a little bit, and he bit her finger off. It's a horse. They have very powerful jaws.
Oh, yeah.
But they don't go around eating people, you know. But, you know, my dad was a cowboy. We grew up on horses and all that. Knew a lot of cowboys, knew a lot of cowboy stories. And a biting horse, man, that's got to be dealt with right now. But they do bite, and they can inflict a lot of pain.
Oh, yeah.
But they don't eat people.
No,
so,
yeah, but they can, like, you can certainly lose fingers really fast with one.
Yeah, they will get you. They also stand on your toe.
Oh, yeah.
So it's, you know, that's all we know about that. She didn't say we've seen some guy thrown around, but apparently that's what they are afraid of. So they said, we get out of there when we see those things.
I wonder how many still are in existence. And is there anything other than the raptor type of dinosaurs that have been reported in the jungles?
Well, there's of course that sauropod, and that could be any one of them, half a dozen long neck, long tailed dinosaurs. The raptor could be any number of maybe half a dozen or so animals that would qualify for that. They're like a T-Rex, like an allosaur, like a dromaeosaur, velociraptors, that sort of thing. I don't know if it qualifies, but over in France, there's a castle over there that I haven't been to. One of my friends went over there and thoroughly photographed it, outside, inside, the draperies and all that stuff. There are hundreds of depictions of what looks to be a prosauropod, a four-legged dinosaur, and some of the depictions show him blowing fire out of his mouth and then puffs of flames all around him. And the tapestries are incredible. They're big, and they show these. You look really closely down in the weeds, you can see baby dinosaurs. And these were done like hundreds of years ago. So they didn't get them out of a National Geographic magazine. They had to be depicting something they saw, because you can't tell any of that stuff from the bones. You see a skeleton of a dinosaur, it's like seeing the skull of a whale or a porpoise or something. It doesn't look anything like the living animal.
Oh, no.
So they almost had to have seen those things. And there's my friend Vince Nelson published a fabulous book called DAR Dragons. You can get it at I'm not sure where you can get them, but Answers in Genesis carries them. But he went all over the world and cataloged, and he was very, very critical to only take stuff he felt really sure about. He cataloged dozens of places, antique art that are hundreds of years old or older, where they're clearly showing dinosaurs as we think of them. And, rules of anatomy will tell you, if you look at the hip of an animal, the ischium, the pelvic girdle, they'll tell you exactly how big that thing's hip was and how long it was to his knee. It's just a rule of anatomy. It's God's way of doing things. So these modern day depictions of dinosaurs are actually pretty accurate, and all they're going on is bones, but the rules of nature pretty much show you what they are. But you can't look at a bones laying out on the ground. You just you would never make that up. Like over in Peru, one of the things that Vance personally went to himself, he had to have an armed guard go with him. Went way up in the mountains, found this cliff of an overhang, and inside in there is a stick figure drawing of a long-necked dinosaur. It's clear that's what it is, with about half a dozen guys standing around it, throwing spears at it, stick figure men. And I think it's in red chalk, red hematite chalk or something. It's ancient. And there's no way they got that out of some textbook or something. They saw that thing. They were depicting something which was apparently a famous, occurrence with some tribe out there. So you say, well, why don't we see those today over there in Peru and places like that? And I think we do. And as I've said before, just because I haven't seen it, you haven't seen it, just because some PhD hasn't taken a photograph of it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Oh, you're so right on that.
I spent 30,000 hours out in our canyons out here and other places in Texas. I've only seen one armadillo, the heartbeat of Texas. I've only seen 2 coyotes. I've seen no badgers, and their holes are everywhere. So maybe they don't exist because Joe didn't see them and take a picture of them.
Yeah.
No, they do exist. I had a state paleontologist. I won't give you his name, but I was talking to him about a certain ranch I was collecting on, and the lady was not sure about the bones and all that. And I said, could you talk to her and tell her I'm following the right process. I'm doing it, scientifically correct. He said, well, unless someone with a PhD photographs these bones and records them, they might as well just wash them down the drain. That's what he literally told me. Says, okay, he won't be calling you back. So that's just snobbery. I don't know what that is, but that is just stupid. That's like saying, unless you got a PhD, you can't drive a car.
Yeah, and some of them have a PhD. You can't drive a car, to be honest with you, Joe. Now, I'm going to go backtrack. Now, these reported like dragons or some of these creatures that supposedly, put flames out of its mouth. Do you think that was possible with any of these prehistoric animals to have been able to do that? Yeah,
absolutely. You look at the bombardier beetle, man, he can blind other insects and things for that stuff he puts out his back end. Fireflies glow. Fish glow. They have things coming out of their head, dangling out from the glow. And there are other bioluminescent animals and things, even plants. So if something like a giant sea snake, maybe 150 feet long, like was reported back in the 1500s, 1600s, when Europeans were coming across from the United States, from Europe in mass, they saw a lot of things you probably don't see nowadays. But if a Tayor were alive today, a really big one like the one that Mike Trebo restored and molded up from Kansas, up in the Badlands up there in Kansas, that thing had a 7-foot-long head, teeth almost as big as bananas.
Oh, wow.
A very complex palate, 2 bones on the roof of his mouth that contained other bones, which were mobile and could kind of shift back and forth. I've worked on, I'm working on a Tayor down here, not that big, from Texas. But their heads they're mobile. They're like a snake. They can spread their heads out. Apparently, they have 2 joints in their jaws and quadrate that allows a lot of movement. So, okay, you're talking about a very complex head of an animal here, and they're an air breather. So let's just say somehow he collects phosphorus we have in our diet. He collects